Hey, what's up everyone? So today we're going to be doing another video lesson on the same thing we talked about in the last video, how to dip buy stocks with a small account. It's a very simple setup to follow. And we just have two more examples of stocks that did this just yesterday. They're both very different in price, very different in float and all those things, but we saw the same exact pattern show up on both of them, and they both ran for very decent gains. Like one of them I think ran like 60%, one ran I think 50% in a single day. So very powerful things to learn for you that have a small account. And yeah, so just gonna break down these two trades. I took one of them, I did not take the other one, but I'm gonna show you both of them because they both fit this system and setups perfectly. So should be a pretty easy video lesson to follow along with. If you enjoy this, make sure that you leave a comment down below, hit the like button for the algorithm, and also subscribe to be notified of future lessons like this. But without any more time wasted, let's get into the screen share to show you these two setups and these two stocks. All right, so here we are on my screen share. If you have any questions about the tools or scanners or platforms that I use, there's a whole thing in the description down below that has links to everything that I use. Right now you're seeing an eTrade Pro chart. I don't trade on eTrade Pro. I just like their charts for teaching purposes in my room and also on YouTube. And we're also going to be using some scanners. I have here, this one here is called Scans. I have a 14-day trial to that. This one here, I'm not going to use in this video, but it's called Trade Ideas. I also have a link to that below. So the two stocks that we're going to be focusing on today for this lesson are going to be BTX and UXIN. So you can see BTX here had a very big move yesterday. I mean, over the past month, it's ran from $4 to $54. So it's been on a massive tear for this past month. But in just yesterday, it ran from a low of $21 to a high of $54. So that's over 100% there. And so we're going to be talking about that one, how to trade that, and also UXIN. Very different price, right? This one ran from 240s, well, actually lows of 186 to a high of 325, and then also a high of 340 the next day. So very different price, but both very similar setups. As you'll see by the end of this video, you'll be able to trade these two setups with ease. And I just want to show you that it doesn't matter what the float is, right? Because these both had very different floats. BTX has a share outstanding of 41 million shares, so the float has to be less than that. And UXIN float of 111 million, so a much larger float, but this setup is still exactly the same, like you'll see by the end of this video. So I found out about both of these stocks through my chat room. They weren't on my watch in pre-market or anything like that. Was just staying patient because yesterday was quite a slow day, and I waited for these ones to kind of show up, and I saw that they fit the system that I'm going to teach you. So this system, like I said, I had a lesson on these, the whole setup, broken down exactly. This is the last video I made. I'll have a little thing in one of these corners to link to it. If you haven't seen it already, make sure that you do to kind of have more knowledge of how this all works. However, there's one little nuance or one little difference to that lesson when it comes to UXIN in specific. So that setup is basically called where you buy the dip off the previous day high. So very simple. You can see BTX here. The previous day high, if you use the 5-minute line chart, previous day high was at about $27, right? You can see right there, $27.25. If you look at the top of the wicks, they topped out at about $27.80. So that was the previous day high. Then you can see the stock had consolidated through after hours into pre-market, held overall support, made higher lows, and then it broke out after market open, ran a little bit into the 30s, and from here is when you make the plan to buy the dip off the previous day high. Now you might be asking, well, Tony, like, how do you know it's going to work out for sure? You don't. And that might be a newsflash to some traders, but there is no way to know for sure if something will work. Now you might be able to have some larger edge by looking at level 2 or volume, but realistically, there's no way to know for sure if support will hold. That's why you have to make a rigid system where you track the data using your system, and you can see that after you take 100 or so trades, they are most likely profitable. I have a whole course on how to do this. You can't predict, you just take the risk. And so here on BTX, I did buy this dip. I went long off the previous day high. I announced it in my chat room. Went long in the 2780s, and it ran to $54. I sold as high as $44. I didn't sell at the top, but that's the overall setup. And you can learn how to manage your risk yourself. I'm not going to go into that within this video. But then when it comes to taking profits on the way up, once again, you're just using stuff from the chart. So if you look at the 1 year chart, let's go back a bit further actually on BTX. What I like to do is something called the weekly chart, and I use the weekly line chart. So this is a big secret that most people don't want you to know, is that you can just use the historical price action, and using that will help you dictate where you might see resistance. Now, once again, that's just like buying support, where you don't know for sure where it's going to top out, but you can have a good idea that if it's going to top out anywhere, it's going to be into resistance. And that means that's like my main plan always is to always lock in partial profits into known levels of resistance, because when you do that, at least you can sell some on the way up, and if it happens to be the top, great. If not, you still have more to sell higher up. So you can see here on this chart, we kind of zoom into BTX, we had some levels. We had this level here near $33, right? Acted as support here, acted as resistance here. We had this level here near $44. Now I think this one was a monthly level actually. Yes, so you can see on the monthly chart, makes it even more simple. You had resistance at $33 and you had resistance at like $44. Next level up was near $80. So using the idea of locking in partial profits into known levels of resistance, you would be going long 27, you sell some, you have a limit sell order waiting at 33. As long as support holds, you keep holding. You can see it held that dip perfectly, so you don't sell because the overall trend is still bullish. Then you have the next target set, lock in partial profits at like $44, breaks out higher, and then you see signs of backside that I talk about in my webinars, and then you sell the rest. Yeah, so that was a very good trade on BTX. The first entry I had on BTX was in the 28s, 2780s, and my highest sell was at like 44.50. So on those partials, I made 61%. Not too bad for a single day trade. So we'll go into UXIN now. Now, I did not trade UXIN. Some people in my chat room did, but it was the same exact overall setup. And like I said earlier, this one is a bit different when it comes to the day 2 dip buy, because you can see, if you look at UXIN's chart, it's not off the previous day high, it's off like the high from 2 days ago. So it's just the previous resistance that it's set in its multi-day move. And you can see here, if you use the 5-minute line chart, you can see on the 23rd, it topped out at just about $2.40. Pulled back, it consolidated, made higher lows, held support for the next few days, and then it finally broke out through the 240s. And then at that point, when you see it, you make a plan to buy the dip off that previous day's high. Once again, you don't know for sure if it's going to work out. Yes, some of these do fail, but you have your risk planned in place for that in case you're wrong. But when it does work out, it can run very well. So you take that dip buy into the 240s. And then once again, if you use the weekly chart, then you can see that these points where it topped out are not, they're not hidden. They're there. You just have to be willing to sell into them, even though you don't know what's going to be the top. And you can't see here on E-Trade because E-Trade kind of sucks, but I'll have a screenshot of Thinkorswim. It actually did top out at $4 in pre-market this morning. and I'll have a screenshot of that right now. But you can see also it topped out 340 after the top, tested 340 as resistance. And there's also a few more levels that you can use from this weekly chart. Let's just draw some out. You can see there was what's above 240. You can see here near $3, near 310. All these levels you could potentially choose to sell partial profits in. And these were all levels that kind of saw resistance today. So you go long 240, as long as the levels hold intraday, you keep holding on, right? Here you have previous resistance holding as new support, so you keep holding on to the stock. And then as it approaches your levels of partial profits, you set limit sell orders, letting the stock run up to you, adding liquidity into the market, not being a person who uses market orders, right? We want to trade smart, not trade stupidly. So we don't use market orders here. We use limit orders. And you just keep holding on, and then you lock your profits in along the way. So like I said, it's a very, very nice and easy way to trade stocks, because you're not using any extra indicators. You're not using any secret formulas. You're not predicting. You're just taking the risk on stocks and setups that make sense. Now, it's very important that you understand that this is not going to work on every single stock. There are lots of parameters and things in place that make it work for these setups that I go into a bit more in detail in TradeBuddy. But I mean, this is a setup, right? You look for stocks that are strong, have good volume, have good news, and you look for those good levels to buy the dip off of, and then you sell into known levels of previous resistance. Simple as that. The hardest part about it is that you have to, number one, you take the risk, you buy into support without knowing it's going to work. And then number two, when you see it hitting resistance, you have to lock in profits without having an ego and greed to hold for more, because what if it goes higher? The hardest part about trading is all just the emotional aspect. And that's, the hard part to really get into. But when it comes to the actual strategy, it's not that hard. You just have to have the discipline on sticking to those rules, right? Not being a trader with a big ego and not trying to predict the future 100%, but just using your rules and trading the setups and trading the system as the stock allows you to. So that's pretty much it. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed that lesson. Hopefully these examples help you understand this strategy a bit more. Now, it's not the only thing I trade, but it's one of my top setups for sure. So it's made me a lot of money and made my students a lot of money too. So make sure that you learn it, test it for yourself. As I always say, make sure that you test it yourself, gather that data through paper trading and tracking data. And then when you see the confidence and you see the data give you confidence, then you can try it out for real. If you want to follow along with me on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Also hit the bell next to it. Leave a like for the YouTube algorithm. And I also have an Instagram and Twitter where I have posts occasionally about the stock market and stocks I'm trading. So make sure you go follow those. If you want to follow along with me and my team, TradeBuddy, click the link down below to join us. We have webinars every single day about the stocks that I trade. We have a full chat room, and we have a whole course that helps beginners learn how to trade. So make sure you go check that out. Huge value in that. So once again, hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you in the next one.